wearing clean gloves?
Yes, I was.
Now, at the time that you begin that kind of examination, what is your purpose? Why are you examining that item of evidence?
I was asked to examine these items and remove any trace evidence, things like hairs and fibers or other debris that were on any of these items.
And in order to collect hair and fibers from a given item, do you have some kind of container that you always use?
I use a paper bindle, so I have basically a white pad of paper that I use. I tear off sheets, and before I started, I kind of pre-folded some so that I had bindles all ready to go, and those were set aside. And so I took one of those bindles, had it out on the lab bench when I was examining the item.
And the first item that you examined was the cap, item number 27?
Yes.
People's 439. And that is the cap that was the first item you examined in this case?
Well, after item 19, yes.
I'm sorry, yes. Item 19 was, when you examined that item, that had already been removed from a piece of evidence, correct?
Right, that's
So
correct.
is this the first piece of first evidence item that you yourself examined in this case?
For the sake of collecting trace evidence off of, yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. And what is the method that you use to collect hair or fibers from this item?
Basically, it's picking, just using my hands, sometimes tweezers if my hands just don't quite have the dexterity I need, and picking off the hairs and fibers that I see. Well, when I'm dealing with garments, things like hats, clothing, I'll actually kind of physically roll the item and look very carefully across the top surface and see hairs or fibers that are kind of protruding, pick those off, place them into the paper bindle, and when I'm done picking everything that I can see, then I'll just gently kind of shake and scrape that item over that white piece of paper. If anything falls off, then I also add that to the bindle.
And did you, the cap, when you first retrieved it from the box, you said it was contained in a bag that was taped shut.
Yes.
Before actually examining the cap, what, if anything, do you do with that bag that it was in? Do you look inside it?
As I'm removing the cap from the bag, I look inside to see if there are any loose hairs or fibers in the bag as well. Sometimes hairs or fibers will fall off of an item and remain in the bag.
And did you do that in this case?
Yes, I did.
And did you see any items of hair, fiber, or trace remaining in the bag when you removed the cap?
No, I don't believe I did.
After you collected the fiber and hair from the cap in the manner you've described into the bindle, what did you do next?
When I was done with my examination, I replaced the cap into its paper bag, and then I basically fold the white examination paper that I'm working on. I'll fold it and tap the sides so any loose fibers or hairs that may be there will kind of fall in based on kind of like a funnel effect. You tap the sides and gravity helps and the things fall down into that crease. And I crease it the opposite way so that I get everything in a very localized area on that white piece of paper and take those items and place them in the bindle.
You literally pick up whatever debris has fallen into the funnel created by the crease?
Correct.
And you put that into the bindle?
Right. Make sure that there's nothing else remaining on that white piece of paper. And then the bindle is placed into a coin envelope. I mark the bindle with some identifying information. I mark the coin envelope with some identifying information. Place the bindle into the coin envelope. I fold over the top flap, and then I remove the white piece of paper, discard it along with my gloves, and go on to the next item.
Before you mark on the bindle, do you fold it up?
Yes.
Before folding it up, do you check your gloves to see if there's any hair or trace remaining on them?
Yes.
And do you examine the paper that the cap had been on and the bindle had been on before you fold up the bindle? After folding up the bindle, do you recall what you marked on it?
Not specifically, but probably something like, hairs and fibers removed from cap, item 27, my initials, the date, the DR number.
If I showed you a photograph, would it sharpen up your memory a little?
Sure it would.
Okay. This is the item number 111 that's already on the board, marked Peoples 436, Your Honor.
All right.
Well, this is, shows the back of that coin envelope and then the bindle,
And
which is a little difficult to read.
Can we zoom in? Okay, the bindle is where in this photograph?
It's in the lower right-hand corner, just above the ruler. That white kind of square piece of paper with a lot of writing on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And the coin envelope next to it? Is that what you put it into?
Yes.
And what's that white envelope doing there?
The white envelope is an analyzed evidence envelope that I then place that coin envelope into.
Bless you. We're going to zoom in. All right. Okay, the coin envelope is now centered. Do you recognize that handwriting?
Yes, that's my writing.
And what does it say?
It says trace evidence removed from cap, item number 27, by S.A. Brockbank, E9110 on 6/21/94.
S.A. Brockbank, that's you?
That's me.
All right. Now, moving over to the bindle. Do you recognize that writing?
Yes, again, that's my writing.
Removed from cap, item number 27 by SAB, that's all what you wrote?
Yes,
And on June the 21st, 94 as well?
yes.
Okay, there's a Q4 and writing on the lower left-hand corner of that bindle.
Yes, there is.
Whose is that?
That's writing placed on there by Doug Diedrich, and his initials are below that.
Now, there's a number on there, 9408-17431.
Yes.
What's that?
That's the DR number of this case.
And the item number 111?
That's the item number that that these hairs and fibers were later booked as by me.
So you take an evidence item from a crime scene, for example, in this case, the cap. Okay. That's item number 27. When you remove hair and fiber, you give that hair and fiber that you recovered from that piece of evidence a new number?
That's correct.
And in this case, it was 111?
Yes.
All right, after you packaged this, actually, into the bindle and into the coin envelope, where did you put the coin envelope?
The coin envelope then went into that larger analyzed evidence envelope that you see. And then that was set aside on my workbench while I went to the next item.
And what did you do with the cap?
The cap had already been replaced into its paper bag, which was folded over and taped closed, and I returned that to the box.
Which was the item that you next looked at?
The next item was the knit cap, item number 38.
Before you looked at it, did you take any precautions to make sure the area was clean from anything that you might possibly have missed after creasing, folding, and everything else?
Yeah. I discarded that white piece of paper that I was working on, changed my gloves, placed down a new white piece of paper, and put on new gloves before I looked at the next item.
And the next item, item number 38, that was the blue knit cap?
Yes.
And what manner in which was it packaged in when you first saw it?
It was packaged in a paper bag, which had been folded over and taped closed.
And after you removed it from the bag, I take it?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do next?
Similar to how I examined the first cap, I removed the knit cap from the bag, placed it on my white piece of paper, again rolling it and looking, very carefully over every inch of the hat. I removed hairs and fibers from the exterior of the hat, placed those into a paper bindle, and then I turned the cap inside out, and I removed, using the same process, removed hairs and fibers from the inside of the cap, and I placed those in a separate paper bindle. Marked the paper bindle from the inside, hairs and fibers removed from inside of cap. Marked the paper bindle from the outside, hairs and fibers removed from outside of cap.
Okay, now, you started with the outside of the cap then?
Yes.
Before you even looked at the outside of the cap, did you look into the bag that had contained the cap?
Yes, I did.
Did you see any hair and trace inside the bag that held the cap?
I don't believe I did.
After you created the bindle for well, let me ask you this. You recovered hair and fiber from the exterior of the cap by picking,
Yes.
and then did you scrape it with your hand gently?
Not initially, not until I had already looked on the inside of the cap also. I didn't want to disturb anything that might be loose on the inside of the cap. So I removed everything I could by picking first from both inside and outside. And then I went back and just gently kind of scraped and, saw if anything came off.
So when you first looked at the exterior and the interior, you did not shake or scrape the cap?
No.
After you picked off whatever you could see from the exterior of the cap, you put that into a bindle, did you?
Yes.
Did you change paper or gloves before going on to the interior?
No.
And why not?
I was still examining the same item. There was really no reason to change gloves. Nothing that I saw.
Did you make any effort to examine the paper or your gloves after you picked off the exterior trace or hair?
Yes, there was nothing remaining on the paper and nothing remaining on my gloves.
Did you fold up the bindle containing the exterior hair or trace before you moved on to the interior?
Yes, that bindle was folded up and placed into a coin envelope, kind of set aside while I looked at the inside of the cap.
And then, after you looked at the inside of the cap, did you examine the paper and your gloves for any remaining hair or trace that might not have been collected into the bindle?
Yes.
Did you see any?
No.
And then did you fold up the interior bindle?
When I had it inside out, I actually did do the little scraping. There's no sense in turning it inside out, twice, so I just did that and placed that in the bindle. Then I folded up the bindle.
Okay.
And then I turned the cap right side out and kind of gently scraped and shook the outside.
So did you create a third bindle for that?
No.
What did you do with the hair and trace that came off when you did the last scraping of the outside?
Put that back in the bindle marked exterior.
And after, okay, so you picked off the exterior, then you turned it inside out and picked off the interior,
Yes.
and then you scraped the interior.
Yes.
After you scraped the interior and completed putting everything into that bindle, you examined the paper and your gloves for hair and trace,
Yes.
and there was none.
Right.
Then you went back and scraped the exterior,
Yes.
and that hair and trace went into the exterior bindle?
Yes.
All right. After that, did you examine the paper and your gloves for any hair or trace?
Yes.
Was there any?
No.
And then what did you do?
Then the cap was, I kind of forgot. I always initial the evidence that I examine. So on item 27, before replacing the cap into the bag, I put my initials on. Usually I try and mark on the tag of the item. So I marked that cap, but then on 38, there's a tag on the inside, which I marked with my initials. Then I replace it into the bag that it came from, fold it over and tape it closed.
That's the cap itself?
Yes.
Okay. So you initial the packages for the actual evidence items themselves when you examine them for hair or trace?
Yes.
And you did that for 27 and 38?
Yes.
With respect to the bindles that you created, did you put them both in one coin envelope?
Yes, I did.
Were they closed up before you put them into the coin envelope?
Yes, they were.
I'm showing the photograph, Your Honor, that is already depicted, I believe, on our chain board.
All right, this has to do with item 112.
112, Your Honor.
And
No?
Um,
I'm sorry, it's 113. Should be 113.
I'm sorry, on the knit cap, I believe I separated the interior from the exterior and put them in separate coin envelopes, not the same coin envelope.
113. We have the wrong, let me change photograph. All right, this is the photograph for item number 113 on the chain board, which shows hair and trace from number 38, we've referred to as the blue knit cap. Are you looking at that photograph?
Yes.
No. All right, you see there's a blue thing down at the bottom of the photograph in the lower left-hand corner?
Yes.
What is that?
We call them slide mailers. It's basically a container that we place mounted slides. Those are slides with hairs mounted on them to protect the slide so that you don't just drop a glass slide into an envelope and expect it to stay intact because it could get broken very easily. So we have these plastic containers, and we also have some cardboard containers that we'll place those slides into to protect them when they're being transported and stored and that sort of thing.
I have two photographs. That's just from the chain board. I'm not marking those individually because they're already on 436.
all right, Mr. Farlow, can we print this one out? Yeah, we do. All right, it's available. Ms. Clark.
I have a photograph, Your Honor, asked that it be marked people's next in order. 442. Can you tell us if you recognize what's shown in this photograph?
There's at the top of the screen, there's a larger coin envelope with my markings, 9408, 17431, item number 113, and SAB. Which is an envelope that I placed the other envelopes, which aren't on the screen anymore, but were on the screen a second ago.
Let's
into.
pull back. Pull back a little bit here.
Yeah.
All right, that's a larger manila type envelope that you just identified?
Yes.
Below that, you see some other
There's-
things.
Right. Off to the left is a large white paper bundle, which I removed. That's actually a bundle that I placed debris. I believe there were like leaves and plant material on the exterior of the hat. I placed those into that bundle.
That has a separate item number, doesn't it?
No, it's also item number 113, which is what I booked these items as.
Okay. But you packaged the soil and the leaves separately?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And that's what's contained in that larger white package?
Yes.
Then off to the right of that, there are three small, appear to be white bindles.
Right.
Can you tell us what those are?
Those are three bindles that, well, when I initially examined the hat, I put the hairs from the exterior in one bindle and the hairs from the interior in a separate bindle. And then each of those bindles went into those 2 coin envelopes that you see in the lower right portion of the screen.
So did you separate then the bindle for the exterior from the bindle from the interior into separate coin envelopes?
Yes, I did.
You want to correct that when you said earlier you didn't?
Right, that's what I said a couple minutes ago.
Right. All right, and then there's a third bindle there. Did you create that at some later point?
Yes.
How'd you do that?
Well, at a later point, I was asked to separate the darker pigmented hairs from the lighter ones. There were some hairs that appeared to be blonde in color, very light, and then there were some dark black to brown hairs. I was asked to separate those from the animal hairs, so there became now 3 bindles instead of just the one. One has the dark colored hairs in it, one has the light colored hairs in it, and one has the animal hairs in it.
Lots of stuff on that hat.
Yeah.
Did you somehow designate when you did that where those hairs came from on the cap when you had to regroup them?
Well, I marked each of those bindles, and the markings are there, and very basic descriptions of the hairs. The top one you can see 7 blonde, lightly pigmented hairs, no roots, from outer surface of knit cap, item 38, separated by SAB, those are my initials, on 6/23/94. So those were separated from the original bindle and placed into that bindle. And then the second bindle down, thank you, 4 dark brown to black hairs, including one with fleshy root intact. I was also asked to see if hairs had roots or if they were just fragments of hairs, which means they were broken or cut or in some way the root detached from them. So I noted that there was one with a root. And then from outer surfaces of knit cap, item number 38, separated by SAB 6/23/94. And then the third bindle, you can't really read what's on it, but it's you can see part of it. It's animal hairs and fibers.
All right, and did you make notations on the coin envelopes depicting which bindle was in which envelope?
On the coin envelopes, I noted that, well, the one on the right you can see says inside cap surfaces. The one on the left is covered up by one of the bindles, but it said outside cap surfaces, which were the exterior of the cap, interior of the cap.
All right, and after you put the one, at that point it was just 2 bindles, 1 bindle in each
That's correct.
coin envelope, and you wrote on the coin envelope. What did you do with them? The coin envelopes.
I folded over the top of the coin envelope, placed those in that analyzed evidence envelope that I had set aside when I examined the first cap, placed it in there with that cap. Actually, it was inside that larger, I'm sorry. Those 2 went inside the larger, and the, let me start over. The 2 coin envelopes and the bindles inside them, along with the larger white bindle you see on the left, were all placed in that larger envelope up at the top of the screen. Then that was placed into the analyzed evidence envelope that I had set aside after examining the first cap.
A box within a box within a box.
Yes.
Had you, at this point, opened that package containing the Bronco carpet, item number 33?
Had I what? I'm sorry.
Had you touched or had you opened that carpet, that piece of carpet, item number 33, that you described earlier as being encased in paper?
No, I had not opened it at that time.
All right, and what did you do with the blue knit cap after you completed all of this?
It was placed back into the paper bag that it came from, and the paper bag was folded over, taped closed, and put back into the box that it came out of.
And taped shut again?
Yes.
Did you move on to the next item of evidence at that point?
Yes.
And what was that?
The glove, item number 9.
The glove from
Well,
Rockingham?
both of the gloves, item number 9 and then item number 37.
What did you do to prepare for the examination of those items?
Again, that piece of paper, my working surface from the previous item was discarded. My gloves were discarded. And a new piece of paper was laid down, and I applied new gloves. And then I took that glove, item number 9, removed it from the bag, and began my examination on it.
I'm sorry.
Perhaps this would be a good spot before we move on to that. All right, let me see counsel at the sidebar with the court report, please. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take our recess for the morning session. Please remember all of my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't allow anybody to communicate with you. And do not conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to you. And we'll stand in recess until 1:15. All right, Ms. Brockbank, you're ordered to come back 1:15. Thank you. Right by all the members of our jury panel, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Ms. Brockbank, would you resume the witness stand, please? All right, good afternoon, Ms. Brockbank. You're reminded you were still under oath. Ms. Clark, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Alan. I think where we left off was the Rockingham glove, item number 9.
Yes.
All right, you recovered that glove, I think you indicated it was in a bag that was taped shut.
That's correct.
Can you tell us, you had clean paper down, you had clean gloves, your lab coat on. What did you do with the bag?
I opened the bag over the clean paper, removed the glove from the bag, and I noticed some hairs, I think, and debris inside the bag. So I removed those items, placed them in a paper bundle, and marked remove from bag containing glove, I believe. And then I examined the glove, the exterior surface for hairs and fibers, and there were some around the opening to the glove. I removed those, placed those in a paper bundle, marked remove from, I think I said opening of glove. I try and be fairly specific when items are removed.
And when you say from opening of glove, do you mean around the wrist area?
Yes, as on the exterior surface of the glove, the opening where near your wrist, these were found in that general area, right around there, not towards the fingers, but towards this end.
And was it on the outside of the wrist area?
Yes,
Okay, so you picked that off first
yes,
with your gloved hands.
yes.
And where did you put the items that you recovered from the wrist area?
In a paper bundle.
Now, when you removed you indicated there was some debris inside the bag that contained the glove.
Yes.
Did you tap that in, or did you take it out with your gloved hand?
I, basically had the bag in my hand, in my left hand, and then reached in with my right hand and, maybe gently tapped the bag out onto the white paper, and then placed that into the bundle.
With your hands?
With my hands, yes.
Okay. Did you look on the butcher paper underneath that bundle to see if any of the trace may have fallen out?
Yes.
And did it?
No.
And did you close up that bundle
Yes, I did.
and make some notations on it?
Yes.
What notations, if any, did you make on it, if you recall?
I think I basically put something about remove from bag containing glove number 9, my initials, the date.
Okay. And did you examine your gloves for any remaining hair and trace before you picked off the hair and trace from the wrist area?
Yes.
Was there any on it?
No.
And after you picked off the hair and trace from the exterior of the wrist area of glove number 9, you put it into a bundle, did you close that bundle?
Yes.
And did you examine your gloves to see if there was any remaining trace on your gloves or on the butcher paper underneath the bundle when you did that?
Yes.
And was there any?
No.
And after you closed the bundle, did you make some notations on it?
Yes.
Do you recall what the notations were?
Again, remove from glove, and I believe I said something about area around opening of glove.
Then did you remove any more hair or trace or fiber from that glove?
Not at that time.
After you created those 2 bundles, where did you put them?
They were placed into a coin envelope, which I folded over and then placed in a analyzed evidence envelope.
Okay, the coin envelope, did you make any markings on that?
Yes.
And what, if any, markings did you make on that?
I don't remember specifically, but basically trace evidence removed from glove, item number 9, and the date, my initials.
Okay, I'm going to show you a photograph that is already contained on the chain board for item number 110. Okay, do you recognize what's being shown there?
Yes.
And what is that?
On the left-hand side is that analyzed evidence envelope. Kind of in the middle area is that the coin envelope marked trace evidence removed from glove, item number 9, by S.A. Brockbank, E9110 on, and if you could focus, 6/21 and 6/23/94. And then down at the bottom, there's some other things, those 110 and whatever's written after that, I didn't write. I don't know what that says. Down at the bottom is the DR number again, 9408-17431, and item number 110, also in my handwriting. And then on the right-hand side are three paper bindles, and there's marking on them as well.
All right. The 3 paper bindles, do you recognize any of them as being the 2 of the bindles that you've just described?
Yes.
Tell us which ones.
Can you
zoom in on that?
yeah.
Your Honor, I have another photograph that shows the back of these items that might be more helpful to the witness, if I may.
All right.
People's 443.
443.
All right. Do you recognize, first of all, item number 110 there?
Yes.
Is that the item number that you assigned to the hair and trace removed from glove number 9?
Yes, it is. The top bindle is removed from edge of glove opening by SAB, the date 6/21/94, and item number 9.
Okay, and that's the bindle you just described to us?
Yes.
And below that?
Removed from inside paper bag, which contains item number 9, glove by SAB 6/21/94, which is the
And-
other paper bindle I described.
All right. Now, after you completed those 2 bindles, you put them into the coin envelope. Can we see that again, please? The coin envelope? Oh, let's go back to the one from the chain board that shows the coin. All right. Once again, I'm showing you the photograph that's contained on the board, People's 436. And the coin...
As item 110.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor, as item 110. And the coin envelope shown there, that's the one that you created on the 21st to contain the bindles for the hair and trace removed from glove number 9?
Yes, that's correct.
There's writing on that envelope. Shows 110 and then J. I can't read the last initial. Can you read that?
I think it's JH 61495.
Right.
JH would be my supervisor, Joe Horrigan.
And for what purpose would he be initialing this coin envelope?
I believe he was involved in just having this photograph done. So he opened up various items of evidence and had photographs done for court, so he initialed the items that he looked at.
Okay. All right, but this is the coin envelope that you made on June 21st, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
After you completed the recovery of the trace from the wrist and from the interior of the bag for glove number 9, what did you do?
I took that coin envelope and set it aside, and it was in the analyzed evidence envelope, set that aside, and I set the glove, either set it aside or put it back in the bag. I can't really remember, because I was going to do something else with it as well. And then I opened up the next glove, which was item number 37, and began examining it on clean paper.
Now, with respect to the analyzed evidence envelope, was that the white envelope we saw in this photograph?
Yes.
On the chain board as number 110?
Yes.
Okay, and you placed the coin envelope containing the bindles into that?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, you moved on to glove number 37 from Bundy?
Yes.
Now, when you did that, did you do it in the same area where glove number 9 was?
Well, I had, like I say, moved glove number 9 either on its paper to a different area of the lab, or I had put it back in the bag. I can't really remember which. But then I laid down new clean paper on that work surface and got the next glove out of the box. It was in a bag.
Okay. Now, are you sure that you took steps to make sure that the two gloves were not in the same working area?
Yes.
And why are you sure of that?
Whenever I'm handling any piece of evidence, I don't want those two pieces of evidence to come into contact, just to prevent any possible contamination of fibers or hairs going from one to the other while I'm handling them.
Hold on. Okay. What did you do with glove number 37? First of all, let me ask you this. Before moving on to glove number 37 to open the bag, did you change the butcher paper on the table?
Yes, I did.
And that was after you'd moved number 9 away?
That's correct.
Did you change gloves?
Yes, I did.
And you're wearing the lab coat?
Yes.
Do you periodically ever look at the lab coat to see if any hair or trace is on your lab coat?
Yeah, periodically.
Did you see any during any of these processes you're describing to us today?
No.
So you examined number 37 on clean paper?
Yes.
What did you do with it?
Basically the same thing I did with the first glove. I removed it from the bag on the clean piece of paper. I examined the outside of the glove for hairs and fibers, and I picked those off, placed them into a paper bundle. Before I did that, I looked in the bag, and there were some fibers loose in the bag. So I removed those fibers in a similar manner as I did the first glove. And then I actually picked the fibers off of the glove itself. So I created one paper bundle for the fibers and hairs taken out of the bag, and a separate bundle for the hairs and fibers taken off of the glove itself.
Okay. And do you recall from what area of the glove number 37 you removed hair and trace?
I removed just from all over. I didn't make a specific notation as far as opening of glove. There was hair, and fiber just basically all over it.
On 37?
Yes.
More so than on number 9?
As I recall, there was, yes.
And did you assign an item number to that item? To the hair and trace that you recovered from number 37 glove?
Yes, I did.
What number was that?
I believe that was item number 112.
I'm going to show you a photograph that is on the chain board as item number 112. When I say chain board, I'm referring to People's 436. And do you recognize what's shown here?
Yes.
What is it?
Again, on the left is that analyzed evidence envelope. In the middle is a coin envelope. And on the right-hand side are 3 paper bundles.
Okay.
Not sure what that is between the paper bundles and the item 112.
Could it be a pillbox?
Oh, yeah, that could be a pillbox.
Okay. Let's tell the jury what a pillbox is.
A pillbox is basically just it's a circular plastic dish, and it has a lid that fits on it, kind of snaps on, and it's something used in the FBI lab. That's what they put their trace evidence in. So they place it in those pillboxes, and it's a transparent thing so that they can examine what's in there, without having a piece of white paper to deal with. They like to deal with the pillboxes, and that's what that is. That was done at the FBI lab. That wasn't something I did.
Okay. And is there some red tape on there?
It's white and red evidence tape, FBI evidence tape around the edge.
Mm-hmm. And is there some red tape also on it?
Yeah, it does look like it down on the lower half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that.
Can't hardly see it, but yeah, I do see that.
All right. Now let's zoom in.
There's a monitor here that could be a little clearer,
Yeah,
better angle.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, I see the red tape better on this monitor.
Okay. All right, let's zoom in on the bindles. Tell us if you recognize any of those bindles, please. First one up on top there.
Yes, I recognize it. It's got notations on it. Removed from inside bag, which contains item number 37 by SAB 6/23/94.
Okay. And so you removed that, the debris from the bag for this item on the 23rd, not on the 21st?
That would be correct, according to this.
Okay.
I thought I did it on the 21st, but according to my bindle, I did it on the 23rd.
Okay. We'll get back to that. You revisited this, the gloves again then after the 21st, correct?
Yes.
All right. And the bindle just below that, do you recognize that?
Yes. That says outer surfaces of glove, item number 37, removed by SAB 6/21/94.
So that bindle contains all of the hair and fiber and trace that you recovered from the exterior of the Bundy glove?
Yes.
And that's your handwriting, I take it?
Yes.
All right, now moving over to the coin envelope. Well, before we do that, there's a bindle below that, also appears to be your handwriting dated June 23rd, 1994.
Yes. And it says removed from inside of glove, item number 37 by SAB 6/23/94. And then animal hairs, no human hair observed.
That was your observation, excuse me?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes. That was the observation you made with your examination of the hair and fiber contained in that bindle, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that bindle, the contents of it were later examined by Mr. Diedrich of the FBI,
That's correct.
and there was some discrepancy in your findings with respect to what was contained in that bindle?
Yes, there might have been.
We'll
I
get
don't
back to
remember
it.
specifically.
We'll get back to it later.
Okay.
And so that's the third bindle of hair, trace, or fiber that you collected from the glove.
That's correct.
Okay, that was from the inside.
Yes.
Showing you the coin envelope now. Do you recognize the writing on it?
Yes, I do.
Is it yours?
Yes.
And is that the coin envelope you created on the 21st to contain the bindles of hair and trace recovered from the Bundy glove?
Yes.
And you see the item number down at the bottom of that coin envelope?
Yes, it's partly covered by the red tape, but it's item number 112.
And the DR number for this case?
That's correct.
After you put the two bindles you created on the 21st into that coin envelope, you indicate you closed the coin envelope?
Yes.
Now again, as you did before, in between the examination of each item, did you look at the butcher paper on which you examined the item for any hair or trace that may have come off?
Yes.
And did you find any?
No.
Did you examine your gloves for any hair and trace that might have come off during your examination?
Yes.
And did you find any?
No.
Other than picking the hair and trace off the exterior of the glove, did you brush it as you did the other items you've described, or shake it in any manner?
I don't believe I did, no.
And after you created the bindles and put them in the coin envelope, did you put the coin envelope into the analyzed evidence envelope?
Could you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
After you put the bindles in, the two bindles you created that day, into the coin envelope, did you put the coin envelope into the analyzed evidence envelope?
Yes, I did.
All right. What happened next?
I was asked to compare the two gloves themselves, and so I began making some measurements on the gloves.
Okay. Did you have them photographed?
Yes, I did.
Before or after the measurements?
Before the measurements.
Okay. And how did you cause them to be photographed?
The gloves were each laid on individual pieces of paper, the examination paper, and I had them photographed actually laying on a floor. So I put down a piece of white paper covering a large area of the floor, and then I took the smaller white papers with the glove actually on them, laid those on that white piece of paper that was on the floor, and I had a photographer with me. He inserted a scale, I believe, between the two items. So they were still on separate pieces of paper, and he photographed them together, and then we photographed them up close a little closer up individually.
Did you ever allow the gloves to touch? at
No,
any
I did
time?
not.
Did you handle both gloves with the same hand?
No, I did not.
How did you handle them?
While the photographing process was going on, if I needed to turn a glove over, I'd turn the right glove with my right hand and the left glove with my left hand. So I never touched, both gloves with the same hands.
Okay. Now, were you doing this with clean gloves?
Yes.
Your Honor, we have a photograph of both gloves together, asked that it be marked Peoples 444.
People's 444.
Thank you, Your Honor. You can look at your monitor.
It's a little sharper that way.
It is.
Do you recognize what's shown in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And tell us what it is.
Those are the two gloves, side by side, photographed as I described, with a scale in between them.
And do you see item numbers beneath each glove designating which is which?
Yes.
And do you see item number 9 below what would be the right glove?
Yes, I do.
And item number 37 below the left glove?
Yes.
After the photographing was done, what did you do with the gloves?
After the photographing was done, I made some measurements of them individually, and those pages of my notes are missing. I left them, I think, in your office when we had a pre-trial meeting.
That's why I have them. Let me show you these. The defense has a copy. I have 2 pages. Each one of them contains a diagram of a hand.
Right. Right. I examined the left glove first, and basically for my measurements and for the purpose of just making an illustration of how I made those measurements, I traced around my own hand. This is a tracing of my hand, not a tracing of the gloves.
Well, I am going to mark it. Maybe it'd be easier if I just put this on the Elmo.
And I thought we had marked these last week with another witness as well, had we not?
Did we?
Yes.
We did.
So they may
Okay.
already be a said.
Hold on. Mrs. Robertson? Mrs. Robertson has them.
Okay.
Why don't I just use these all? Don't have to bother Ms. Robinson.
It's her job. It's not a bother.
These have been previously marked as 402A and 402B.
Thank you.
Is A right and B left? Refresh my recollection, is A right and B left?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, let me show you 402A. You get all done? All right, is that a diagram that you made tracing
Yes.
around your hand on June 21st?
Yes, it is.
How is it that, first of all, let me ask you this. You finished the photography. First of all, you had the items on the floor, on paper on the floor.
Yes.
Weren't you concerned that they were going to get dust or some kind of, get dirty, get stuff on them that didn't belong on them by putting them on the floor?
Not really, no. As I said, I laid out a large piece of white paper and then, watched as the photographs were being taken. We don't have strong wind currents gusting through our lab as far as kicking dust around and things, so I really wasn't worried about that.
Was the lab clean?
Yes.
floor clean?
Yes.
When you picked the gloves up off the floor, did you pick them up individually on their paper?
Yes, I did.
And then when you went about the measurement process, can you tell us how you did that? Which glove you started with?
I started with item 37.
Okay, that would be the left glove then?
Yes.
Let's go to 402B. Do I have it?
And I measured from the tips of the fingers of the glove to the glove opening, just on the backs of the gloves. And I made 5 measurements, one for the thumb and one for each of the different fingers. And I made notations, basically drew a line from the end of the finger to the opening of the glove, and then made a notation as to the length in inches as measured on a ruler. I just had a ruler out on my lab bench, measured, read the measurement, wrote it down for each of those fingers. And then I went on to the other glove, item 9, the right glove, and I made similar measurements on it.
Okay. Now, were you touching the gloves with your hands as you were measuring?
Yes,
Were your hands gloved?
yes,
Were they clean gloves?
yes.
When you finished the measurements on the left glove, why don't we indicate for the record what they are? Can you read them?
I can read them off my notes if that's all right. For the, starting on the left-hand side, which would be like the pinky finger, it was 8 inches. The next finger in was 9 1/4 inches. The next finger in towards the right is 9 5/8 inches. The next finger in is 9 inches, and then the thumb measured 6 1/2 inches.
Now, were these gloves dry when you saw them on the 21st?
Yes, they were.
Were they still cold from the freezer?
When I was first examining them, yes, they were. They take a little time to warm up.
Now, you moved on then to the right glove?
Yes, that's correct.
And was the right glove where was the right glove while you were doing this?
It was on another portion of the lab bench, just set aside for the moment.
Did you change gloves before you went to measure this right-handed glove?
Yes, I did.
And did you check your gloves for any hair or trace that may have come off during the measurement process of the left glove?
Yes, I did, but was all done after I had removed fibers and hairs from the gloves, so there shouldn't have been any anyway, but I did.
So after you changed gloves, you went to measure the right glove?
Yes.
And did you use the same procedure as before?
Yes.
You made certain observations of the condition of this glove, I notice on this diagram, correct?
Yes, I did.
And what observations were those?
On the thumb measurement, I have 2 measurements that I listed, 6 inches and 6 1/2 inches. That's the measurement on the far left of the screen. And I made a notation that says when edge of glove is folded back to where it would be in original condition. And then there's an arrow kind of connecting that to some other notations I made near the base of the glove. Oh, didn't realize what you'd done there. In the, yeah, if you could get back a ways a little bit for a minute. In the lower left-hand portion of the screen there, kind of pointing towards that area of the glove, down near the base of the thumb where the opening is, there are I made notations that say the edge of the glove opening is unfolded here. There's distortion in the shape of the glove. Basically, the leather on the glove comes down from the fingers and then folds over about a half of an inch, and then the interior lining is sewn into the inside. But in this particular area, that was unfolded. There was a little distortion. So I made those 2 measurements, one with the edge folded in and one with the edge folded out, which is how the glove wanted to be, basically. It just wanted to lay that way, opened up. And so those are your 2 measurements, 6 and 6 1/2.
Okay, so the hem of the wrist area of the right glove was pulled out?
Yes. And then there are some other notations on the right side of the glove, and those kind of help explain this. It's, say, what I wrote is, some stitching along this opening is pulled/missing. I took my exemplar of thread, which means I cut a small piece of the thread to look at under the microscope from the end of a pulled strand of thread in this previously damaged area. So there was some thread missing in that area, and that, I think, helped account for the distortion and the overall look of the glove.
Okay. And the measurements that you made for this, for the fingers of this glove?
Again, starting with the thumb on the far left of the screen, those two measurements, 6, 6.5, depending on whether you fold that flap in. Then the index finger was 8.5 inches. The next finger over towards the right of the screen, 9.25 inches. The next finger is 8.75 inches, and the last finger was 7.75 inches.
Now, on June the 20th, did I ask you to measure a new-looking pair of gloves?
Yes, you did.
And did they appear similar to the gloves that you've just described, numbers 9 and 37?
Similar style of glove, but new.
And did you make those measurements?
Yes, I did.
All right, then if you could tell us, did you measure those new gloves in the same manner you've described measuring these other ones?
Yes, I did.
And what was the result of that with respect to the right and the left glove?
I'll have to refer to my notes, which are a different page here.
Okay. Did you turn over copies of those notes to us?
Yes, I did. The measurements for the right glove, the thumb measurement was 7.25 inches, the index finger 9.75 inches, the middle finger 10.1/8 inch, the ring finger 10 inches, the pinky finger 8.75 inches. For the left glove, the thumb measurement was 7 inches. Index finger was 9.75 inches. Middle finger 10.25 inches. Ring finger was 10.1/8 inch, and pinky finger was 8.7/8 inches.
Okay, now these newer gloves that you measured on June 20th of this year, did they have a size indicated on the label?
Yes, they did.
And what was that?
It was XL.
Okay, and the gloves number 9 and 37, did one of those have a tag that indicated what size it was?
Yes,
And what did it say?
XL.
So what was the difference in the sizes of the new gloves that you measured on June 20th of this year and the size of the glove numbers 9 and 37 that you retrieved from the freezer on June the 21st?
They varied from finger to finger. I believe the greatest difference was about 1.25 inches
On one finger?
on one of the fingers. I can tell you exactly which finger
Sure.
if you want me to. Actually, on a couple of the fingers on the right glove, there was 1.25 inch difference in length.
1.25 inch difference. With the, which one was larger, which one was smaller?
The newer gloves were larger all the way across the board.
And by as much as 1.25 inches in one finger?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, after you got done measuring the Bundy and Rockingham gloves, 9 and 37, 37 and 9 respectively, what did you do?
I returned them to their respective paper bags, folded them over, taped them closed, returned them to the box that they came from.
And was all of this examination done on June the 21st?
Yes.
And then where did you place box number 2?
Box number 2 was placed in the freezer in our serology unit of the crime lab.
Okay, now that box, did it contain the hair and fiber bindles that you created?
No.
What did it contain?
It contained the original items of evidence that were collected from the crime scene.
What was originally in the box when you took it out that day?
Yes.
And box number 1, what did you do with it?
Box number 1 was kept in my storage locker in the trace analysis lab.
Why didn't you take it back to the evidence control unit?
I wasn't quite done examining the evidence in that box yet, so I kept it in my lab.
And when you kept it in your lab, was it in some way secured there?
Yes, I have an evidence locker, which is under the counter of that large examination table that I described earlier. And it's a locker which has a key to lock it. I placed that box, all of the evidence that I placed in that locker was then locked in with a key, and I retain the key.
Okay. Now, at this point, were all of the bindles of hair and trace that you collected from the evidence items on June 21st in coin envelopes that were then placed into analyzed evidence envelopes?
Yes.
And where did you keep where did you keep all that? All those
That-
envelopes?
All those envelopes that were in that one analyzed evidence envelope was in my evidence locker.
Locked in there?
Yes.
All right. On June the 22nd, 1994.
Yes.
Did you again examine item number 19 that you've identified on the board marked Peoples 436, the hair and trace recovered from the Rockingham glove by Dennis Fung?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do to prepare for that examination?
I basically, the same kind of thing that I've been doing all along, laid down clean white paper. I opened the envelope, and I had examined item 9 the previous day, so I knew what I was expecting to find. I opened up the coin envelope, removed the paper bindle, and inside the paper bindle were those hairs and fibers. Placed those on a microscope slide and mounted them with water, examined them on the microscope, and made some notations as to what I observed.
Okay. Now, again, you're wearing clean gloves and white lab coat.
Yes.
When you put them under the microscope on the slide, how did you mount them?
In water?
Same as before?
Yes.
Why were you mounting, you indicated earlier to us the problem with mounting in water, so why did you do it?
I was asked to mount the hairs in water by my supervisor at the time, Greg Matheson, who wanted me basically to look at these hairs to see if they had roots on them or not. The hairs with roots could potentially be tested for DNA, and those without roots could not, using the PCR method. So the serology unit, the DNA unit, was not really sure how our mounting media, our other mounting media that's more appropriate for hair, would affect that DNA. So they requested that I mount them in water and kind of sacrifice a little bit of my visibility in looking at the hairs in order to preserve that possible DNA evidence.
Okay, when you mounted them in the hairs from number 19 in water on this particular date. You use the same process you've described to us before.
Yes.
During this process, did anything happen to one of the hairs that you were examining?
Yes.
What happened?
Well, when I was mounting it on the slide, placing the hair actually on the slide, it broke in two. So now instead of having, I believe there were 3 hairs total. Instead of having 3 hairs, now I had 4 hairs, or 4 pieces of hair.
Okay. Did you make a note of that somewhere?
Yes, I did.
And after you completed your examination of the hairs on the water mount on that slide, what'd you do?
I unmounted those hairs, again, basically the reverse of mounting, removed them from the slide, placed them back into the paper bindle, put that paper bindle back in the coin envelope. This time I sealed the coin envelope with a piece of tape, initialed that and dated it. And then I examined item number 58 in the same manner.
Okay. Now, so you sealed the coin envelope on this date, did you?
Yes.
And then placed it where?
Placed it back in the original box that it came out of.
Box number 1?
Yes.
Did you put it in an analyzed evidence envelope or just put the sealed coin envelope into the box?
Just the sealed coin envelope into the box.
Which is how you found it?
Yes.
Now, item number 58 was what?
Item number 58 was a coin envelope which contained 2 plastic bags, and each of those plastic bags had some hairs and or fibers in them.
And where did that come from?
That came out of box number 1.
Okay. And was that hair or fiber collected from a bloodstain at Rockingham?
Yes.
You examined it under the microscope?
Yes, I did.
Did you do that with a water mount on a slide, or did you just look at it inside the paper bindle?
I used a water mount on a slide.
Okay. Now, this item, I forgot to ask you about this item. Was it packaged in some kind of paper bindle?
No, they were
Just the
in
plastic bags?
plastic bags.
All right. What did you see when you looked at the item number 58 on the slide?
Animal hairs.
Just animal hairs?
Yes, no
No
human
human.
hairs.
And after you noted that, what did you do?
I, again, unmounted the slide, placed those hairs back into their respective plastic bags, and then replaced those bags into the coin envelope that they came from, and then sealed the coin envelope with a tape seal, initialed it and dated it, placed that back into the box that it had originally come from, box 1.
All right, June 23rd. Was box 1 still in your locker then?
Actually, on the 22nd, I also sealed that box, box 1.
How did you seal it?
Taped around, like I had described earlier, taped around with a black tape around the circumference of the box in 2 directions, and then placed an evidence seal across that closure.
Was that black or brown tape?
Brown tape.
Okay. Moving forward, June 23rd. Can you tell us what, if anything, you did with box number 1?
Yes, I returned box number 1 to our evidence control unit because I was done analyzing what I was requested to do from that box.
Then what did you do?
Let me see. Then I went to the serology unit after returning box 1 to the evidence control unit. I went to serology and removed the gloves and the 2 hats from box number 2, which were in the freezer, and took just those items in the bags to the trace analysis unit to examine them further.
Which item did you examine first?
I examined the knit hat and then the brown hat.
The knit hat, meaning number 38, the ski cap.
Yes.
What did you do with it?
I ran a test, which tests for blood,
Okay, and did you use clean paper to do that?
Yes, same process as before. I removed the hat from the paper bag onto a clean piece of paper, wearing clean gloves, ran my test, and then I replaced the cap back into the bag, folded the bag over, sealed it with a piece of tape.
And then what did you do?
Then I examined the second hat and did the same tests on it.
Okay. The second hat, meaning the cap you identified earlier in the Bronco.
Yes, item 27.
And before you did that, did you change gloves?
Yes, before I examined the second hat, I changed paper, changed gloves. Same routine.
Is that something you invariably do with every item?
Yes, it is.
Second nature?
Yeah, it is to me.
And after you completed some kind of blood testing on the cap from the Bronco, what did you do with the cap?
Replaced it into the bag, folded the bag over, sealed it with tape, and then I returned both of those hats to the serology freezer into box number 2 where I had taken them from.
And what did you do next?
Next, I examined the gloves again, items 9 and 37.
Which one first?
I don't really recall. I listed them as 9 and 37, so it might have been 9. I like to go numerically a lot of times, so it was probably 9.
And where did you perform the examination of those gloves?
In the trace unit.
All right. And did you change gloves before examining item number 9?
Yes.
And clean
Same-
paper?
Same procedure, right.
What did you do with item number 9 on that clean paper?
I turned the gloves, well, item 9, individually. I was working on item 9, turned it inside out, and this time I removed any hairs and fibers from the interior surface of that glove. Placed those into a paper bindle and marked it accordingly.
And what procedure did you use to remove hair and fiber from the interior of the glove?
The same procedure I used before. Basically picking, rolling the fabric of the glove between my fingers, picking off those stray hairs or fibers that basically protruded, and place those in a paper bindle.
Okay, did you scrape the interior of the glove with your gloved hand?
I believe I did, yes, just very gently scraped over the paper.
And then what did you do with the trace and the hair that came off as a result of the picking and the scraping?
All of that was placed into a paper bindle and marked the bindle, removed from interior surface of glove, item number 9.
Okay.
And then that was placed into coin envelope.
Okay, before you did that, before you folded up and closed the bindle, did you examine the paper the bindle was the glove was lying on and you were working over for any stray pieces of trace or fiber that may have come off?
Yes.
You indicated earlier that you always crease the paper to create a funnel and gather it. Did you do that in this case?
Yes,
And anything that was in that crease you put into the bindle?
that's correct.
After you did that, did you close the bindle?
Yes.
Did you examine the paper again to make sure all the hair and trace was taken into the bindle?
Yes.
And did you examine your gloves?
Yes.
And was there any remaining hair or trace that you could see?
No.
When you closed up the bindle, I think you indicated you put it into a coin envelope,
Yes.
and that's after you made notations on the bindle?
Yes.
Did you make notations on the coin envelope?
I did as far as the date goes. I used the same coin envelope that I had started for that glove the day before. And you'll notice on the coin envelope that there are 2 dates. It says hairs and fibers removed from glove number 9 by SAB on, and then there's 2 dates, 6/21 and 6/23.
Okay, let's see. I have on the monitor, Your Honor, the photograph from the board marked People's 436 for item number 110.
Yes.
If we could zoom in on the bindles on the right-hand side. Thank you. I think we need the back of it, where it's all the writing is. That's the photograph that, I'm sorry, photograph that we marked previously as People's 440? No. 443. .442, Your Honor. Sorry about that. Okay, can you tell us which bindle that is?
The bindle on the lower right, which says remove from surfaces, remove from inside surfaces of glove, item number 9, by SAB 62394.
Right, we are zooming in on that now. That's the bottom bindle.
Yes, that's correct.
And after you made the notations and you put it into that coin envelope shown in this photograph as well?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And again, this photograph that's been marked as 442, that's the back side of the photograph that's shown on the chain board for item number 110?
Yes.
And what did you do with the coin envelope when you were done packaging the bindle into it?
I folded over the top of the coin envelope and placed it back into that analyzed evidence envelope.
Okay. Now, you described the hairs and fibers in this bindle from the interior of the glove as containing 7 hairs total?
I believe, did I write that on the bindle, I think?
I don't know.
Do you have
In your notes?
the other photograph with the back of the bindles? No.
In your notes?
It may be in my notes.
Do you want to refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay.
I have 7 hairs total for all of those hairs removed from the glove. That would be inside the glove.
And outside?
And outside.
Okay.
And the bag that the glove was packaged in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, and you also indicated, let me ask you this. In August, you wound up transporting all of these items to the FBI, is that correct?
Yes.
And you assisted Mr. Diedrich in the examination of these items?
I helped prepare some of the items for examination. He performed all the examinations.
Okay. Did he point out some discrepancy between your observations of the hairs collected from the glove at Rockingham and his?
Objection, calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
Did your observations, did he point out something to you with respect to what he observed on the, in the hairs collected from that glove?
Same objection.
Or yes or no, did he point out something to you?
Yes.
Did you notice on this second observation in the company of Mr. Diedrich that there were actually 8 hairs and not 7? in this package?
Sustained.
Did you notice a difference in the number of hairs from what you had earlier noted when you examined the contents of the bindles at the FBI in August?
At that time, no, I didn't know there was a difference in count of hairs.
Did that come to your attention at some point?
Yes.
And when was that?
In
The foundation list is based on hearsay.
Overruled.
in a pretrial meeting with you.
And did you make any effort to verify or to determine who was right? You or Mr. Diedrich?
No.
Objection, assumes facts not in evidence.
Sustained.
Let me ask you this, Ms. Brockbank. Did you add any hairs to the bindles after you finished collecting on the 23rd?
No.
Did you add any fibers to the bindles after you finished collecting on June the 23rd?
No.
Again, when you made your examination and you noted 7 hairs, how did you make that observation?
Based on my water mounts of those hairs.
And you've indicated earlier to us the problem with the water mount. Could that also have any impact on your ability to discern how many hairs or fibers are present?
It could.
And you also indicated earlier
Objection, non-responsive.
Overruled.
You also indicated earlier that it could have an impact on your ability to accurately determine the color of items that you're looking at.
Yes.
Did you discover any discrepancy in your description as to the color of the hairs that you were looking at contained in these bindles?
I don't believe so.
Well, did you detect any black limb hair in the debris and hair that you recovered from the Rockingham glove?
No, I did not describe anything like that.
And when I say limb hair, tell us what that means.
It means a hair from a limb, like an arm or a leg, as opposed to a head hair or pubic hair or other body hair.
When you examined the hairs recovered from the interior of the Rockingham glove in the company of Mr. Diedrich, did he point out anything with respect to did he point out any limb hair to you recovered from the interior of the Rockingham glove?
Yes, he did.
And what did you see?
Passed objection, calling for hearsay.
What did you see? Overruled.
I saw a limb hair,
What kind of limb hair did you see?
a darkly pigmented limb hair.
And had you noticed that before when you examined the item?
I had not reported it, so I would have to say no, I didn't notice it before.
When you looked at it in the company of Mr. Diedrich, were you looking at it in water mount?
No, I wasn't.
How were you looking at it?
I was looking at it properly mounted in a medium called per mount, which is what we typically use to perform hair examinations. We mount it in this media, and you don't have the problem with the refractive index and the glare and those thick black lines surrounding your hairs. You can see the internal features much easier and clearly.
After you completed your packaging of the hair and fiber and trace from the interior of the Rockingham glove, what did you do next?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Sure. After you completed the packaging of the hair and fiber and trace from the interior of the Rockingham glove, item number 9, what did you do next?
Then I began examining the other glove.
And before you began to examine the other glove, did you prepare in some manner?
Yes, I again laid down a new clean piece of white paper. I had new gloves on. And then I removed the glove from the packaging.
Before doing that, had you repackaged glove number 9 in its original bag?
Yes,
And did you tape it shut again?
yes.
When you recovered the Bundy glove from the bag, what procedure did you follow for the examination for hair and trace fiber?
The same procedure,
Did you turn it inside out?
yes.
And did you follow the same picking and scraping procedures you described earlier?
Yes, I did.
And how did you package the hair and fiber that was recovered by that method?
In a paper bundle.
And did you make some notations on the bindle?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
Remove from interior surface of glove, item number 37.
And did you assign an item number? Again, an item number was assigned to the hair and trace recovered from the Bundy glove,
Yes.
and that was item number.
112?
I'm going to show you a photograph that is from the board of 436 for item number 112. And we showed that to you already, I guess.
Yes.
Can you see, can we zoom in on the bindles, please, Jonathan? Move down. This is not the side that has the writing on it, is it? All right.
No.
Photograph that's now on the Elmo drawing has not yet been marked, and that depicts the back of the coin, and this photograph now up there depicts the back of the coin envelope and the back of the bindles. We should mark it as People's 445?
All right, 445 as to item 112.
Thank you, Your Honor. Showing you now the photograph that really is from the chain board for item number 112. If we could zoom in on the bindles. Okay, do you see the bindle that you created on June the 23rd for the removal of the interior trace and hair from glove number 37?
From the interior of the glove is the bottom right, the bottom bindle.
There we go.
And it says remove from inside of glove, item number 37 by SAB, 623.94. And then a note, animal hairs, no human hair observed, 630.94.
Could we move up to the top bindle? With respect to the hair and trace recovered from this Bundy glove, I'm going to show you again photograph number 445. The bindle at the top.
Right.
Okay, and that is the bindle that came from, that contains hair or fiber coming from where?
From the bag which contained the glove.
Okay.
And my notation on this side of the bindle says mostly animal hairs, the animal's covered up by some seals at the top, slash fibers and debris, one questionable human hair.
Now, with respect to that, did you examine the contents of this bindle again in the company of Mr. Diedrich at the FBI in August?
Yes, I did.
All right. Between the time that you did the packaging and collecting of hair and fiber from this glove and sealed up the bindle, and going to the FBI, did you add any hair or fiber to the bindle?
No,
Or change any of the hair and fiber inside the bindle?
no.
And did you see that there were any more or fewer hairs on the slide when you examined it in per mount, as it should be mounted, with Mr. Diedrich at the FBI in August?
I don't recall specifically what our findings were when I examined it with him.
All right, you indicate on the bindle that there was one questionable head hair in the debris?
One questionable human hair.
Okay. And do you recall seeing with Mr. Diedrich 2 white hair fragments and a short human hair?
Sustained.
Do you recall looking again at the contents of this bindle with Mr. Diedrich?
Yes.
And do you recall seeing more hairs when you looked at it in per mount than you had originally looking at it in water mount?
Vaguely. I don't really recall.
Are there any notes that would refresh your recollection?
I didn't take any notes when I was at the FBI lab. I'm not sure if there are any notes here. If I can take a minute?
Sure. Let me ask you one question. Ms. Brockbank, when Mr. Diedrich did his examination, did he allow you to examine what he had mounted in per mount as well?
He called my attention to certain items. I didn't examine every item that he examined.
Okay.
And, pointed certain things out to me, and I observed them, and I just don't recall exactly which items I was looking at any specific time.
When he pointed things out to you, did you disagree with any of his observations?
No.
And he's been doing it for how many years?
I'm not even sure, 17, 18, 20, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And as of August of '94, how long had you been doing hair and trace examinations?
Probably about 3 years.
All right, now when you get done collecting, handle it that way. Yeah. When you get done collecting hair and fiber into a bindle, do you close it immediately?
Yes, I do.
When you were finished collecting the hair and trace from the interior of the Bundy glove, you created the bindle that you've already identified for us. Where did you put that bindle?
I placed it into the coin envelope, which I had already created for that glove.
The same one you've previously identified?
Yes.
And then what?
And then I folded over the top flap of that coin envelope, replaced it into the analyzed evidence envelope.
Now, was this the last contact you had with those gloves before you took them to the FBI?
On the 23rd?
Right.
No.
When
Well, yes, with the gloves, yes.
Because after you get done collecting hair and trace from items, you make the bindles, the coin envelopes. Do you ever put the coin envelopes and bindles back in contact with the item you've removed them from?
No.
During all of these procedures, did you ever touch the piece of carpet marked as item number 33 that was wrapped up in paper and taped in the box?
No.
It remained in the box?
Yes, it did.
After you repackaged the Bundy glove, did you seal it up again?
Yes, I did.
And where did you put it?
I took both of the gloves back to the serology lab and placed them into box number 2, which was in the serology freezer.
So they went back in the freezer again?
Yes.
Then what did you do?
second. I began examining evidence I had removed from item number 38 previously, evidence that was now given, going to be booked as item number 113 eventually.
Now, this was the hair and trace recovered from the blue knit ski cap,
Yes.
and you examined it under the microscope?
Yes, I examined it, again, using the water mount under the microscope.
Now, before you began this examination, did you, again, put down clean paper and change into clean gloves?
Yes.
The coin envelopes that contained the bindles for the blue knit ski cap, were those in your locker still?
Yes.
All right, what did you do with at this point you still had the two bindles, is that correct?
One from the outside of the hat, one from the inside of the hat, yes.
Okay. What, if anything, did you do with the contents of those two separate bindles on June 23rd?
Again, I began examining the evidence, the hairs and fibers that had been removed from the outside surface of the hat. And I was asked on that day by my supervisor, Greg Matheson, or Michelle Kessler, one of those two, to separate those darker colored hairs from the lighter colored hairs from the animal hairs. So that's the day I created more bindles and separated those hairs into 3 different categories.
Now, how did you do that to avoid everything getting mixed up and flying around? What precautions did you take?
The hairs themselves were, placed on a microscope slide mounted in water, and I would move the slide and, put like a little dot with black ink on the cover slip, kind of marking the hairs I wanted to remove, and this is a hair versus a fiber or an animal hair. And
Wait, did you mark on the hairs or fibers themselves?
No, on the cover slip that covers the slide.
The glass, that thin piece of glass on top?
Right, just kind of a little dot so that I knew which hairs it was I wanted to remove. And then over at the workstation, I removed the hairs that were by those dots, put them in the separate separate paper bindles, and then the remaining animal hairs and fibers were left in the original bindle.
And you did that for each of the bindles? The exterior bindle and the interior bindle?
I did it for the exterior bindle. I don't believe I did for the interior bindle. I believe those all stayed in one. Let me just check. Yeah, I believe they all stayed in one bindle.
Okay.
They were all darker hairs. There were no lighter ones there.
There were no lighter ones on the interior of the cap?
No.
Okay. So did you even open it up to examine it on the scope, under the microscope that day, or did you just leave that bindle intact?
Actually, on the which day are we on? On the
23rd.
23rd, no, I didn't look at those hairs at all. Didn't open the bindle at all.
Okay. So the only bindle that was open for the cap on that day was the exterior?
That's correct.
Have you identified all the bindles you created for item number 38 so far?
I believe I have, yeah.
Okay. All right, now again, with respect to this particular item, do you recall counting up the number of hairs that you found? that you recovered from item number 38? The cap?
Yes.
And how many were they?
I believe I counted 34 hairs.
And when you got to the FBI, did Mr. Diedrich again examine the contents of the bindles you created, removing hair and trace from the Blue Knit ski cap?
Yes, he did.
And did you observe more hairs during that process when he examined them under per mount instead of water mount?
Yes.
How many more were there?
I believe there were 4
4 more?
additional hairs.
So what can account for that discrepancy?
Sustained.
You examined the hairs and counted them when you examined them with water mount?
Yes.
And when you examined them in the company of Mr. Diedrich at the FBI, how were they mounted on the slide?
In per mount.
And did you observe that there were 4 more hairs when they were mounted in per mount?
Sustained.
Did you make any observation concerning the number of hairs removed from item number 38, the ski cap, when you examined them mounted in per mount at the FBI?
No.
At some point you discovered that there were more hairs, 4 more?
Yes.
Okay. Did Mr. Diedrich point out, direct your attention to the hairs that were mounted from the ski cap when you were at the FBI?
Ye-
You can't.
yes.
Did you disagree with any of his findings?
No.
Did you add anything to the bindles created for the items, the hair and trace items from the ski cap after you finished collecting them from the ski cap?
No.
And were the bindles always kept closed?
Yes, they were.
And were they closed immediately after putting hair and trace into them that was collected directly from the ski cap?
Yes, they were.
They weren't left open lying around anywhere?
No.
All right, after you completed your examination of the bindles of hair and fiber from the ski cap, what did you do with those bindles?
I replaced them back into the coin envelope marked from the exterior of the ski cap, and returned that coin envelope into the analyzed evidence envelope, placed that into my locker. It remained in my locked evidence locker whenever I was not performing some sort of examination on those items.
And as of this point, now you were the one that collected the exemplar from the defendant, is that correct? You took his hair samples?
Yes.
Had that been done as of this date, June 23rd?
No, it had not.
Now on June 24th, as of that date, you had removed hair and trace from what items?
As of that date, I had removed hair and trace from the 2 gloves, items 9 and 37, and the 2 hats, items 27 and 27 and 38.
And did you release the bindles of hair and fiber that you recovered from those items contained in their coin envelopes and in the analyzed evidence envelopes to someone?
Yes, I did.
And who was that?
I released all of that to Michelle Kessler, who
And
is
was that-
our,
I'm sorry? Go ahead.
I was going to say, who is our lab director currently.
And was that for the purpose of allowing the defense to view the evidence?
Yes, it was.
And when was it returned to you?
I released the evidence to her at around 10:30 in the morning, and she returned them to me at about 1:15.
Were you present for that viewing by the defense?
No, I was not.
All right, on June 27th, did you do some further examination of the hair and trace removed from the Blue Knit ski cap, item number 38?
Yes, I did.
And what procedure did you follow to prepare for that examination?
The same procedure all along. You know, I cover my bench with white paper, put on clean gloves, and then I mounted some of these hairs in permount, and actually the hairs I mounted were the hairs that did not have roots on them. I mounted those in permount, and I did not mount any hairs that had roots. They were left in the bindles.
Okay. And again, that was for the purpose of any possible DNA testing that might be conducted?
That's correct. And additionally, I made notations on the bindles themselves as to how many hairs I mounted or removed from that bindle. And those notations were made directly on the bindles.
All right, can you explain the mounting process that you followed with respect to the use of permount instead of water? What is permount anyway?
It's a mounting media. I don't know the exact chemical composition of it.
Does it hurt the hair, damage it, or alter it in any way?
No. It enables someone to look at a hair under the microscope and actually view the internal structures and characteristics of that hair. It's a semi-permanent mounting media. Unlike water, water will eventually evaporate and you know, all you're left with is a cover slip and your hairs. Permount will dry and harden and basically fix those hairs between the cover slip and the slide. If you touch the cover slip, it's not going to go sliding off as if you had it in water. You know, you could just slide the cover slip right off.
And so when you mount a hair in permount on a slide, you cover it with the cover slip. Can the hair get out from under by itself?
No.
And can any other hairs get stuck up under the cover slip?
During the mounting process, you know, the media is wet, so you're dealing with a wet media, and you place the hair on the slide, cover it with the cover slip. From that point on, nothing else is going to crawl underneath it that I'm aware of.
And so you mounted the hairs that you'd earlier recovered, well, I shouldn't say just hairs, maybe hairs and fibers, that you earlier recovered from the ski cap on the date of June the 27th?
Yes, I mounted, and I think it was just hairs on that day.
How many?
I believe I mounted 31, and one of those hairs, as it turns out, was an animal hair, not a human hair. Okay. So 30 human hairs.
Slides did you create?
Slides. I created 11 slides. For all of the hairs I mounted from the exterior and interior surfaces of item 38. And there were obviously more than one hair on each slide to account for those 31 hairs.
I was just going to ask you, is that okay to mount more than one hair on a slide?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Oh, I see. show you these photographs and have you tell me if these are photographs of the slide mailers and slides that you created from the hair and fiber taken from the blue knit ski cap.
Yes, they are.
Okay, I'm going to ask, are there more there than